The idea that Christopher Dawson developed, in particular in his studies, to describe the birth of the Western civilization, it is in relation with the idea of ancients and the idea of moderns, but in particular a specific type of relationship between ancients. In fact, on the one hand, according to Dawson, a specific type of first type of separation of idea of division between politics and religion, it was developed in the ancient Greek society. In fact, according to Dawson, in particular in his book, when Dawson developed his specific type of history in relation with the communities and the civilizations before Greeks, in particular the Mycenaeans and also the Mesopotamian civilizations and also the Egyptians, Dawson explained that in these structures, in these civilizations, for example, Mesopotamia, Egyptian civilization, but also Mycenaeans, there was a specific type of connection, conciliation between religion and politics, where in this sense, the idea of gods, it was in relation with the idea of politics, and gods decides for the politics. This is really important because if we have to connect this idea with the ancient Greek society, we have also to consider that in this sense, it is true that Greeks developed this idea where religion, it was in relation with politics. In this sense, for example, we have to consider the Iliad and Odyssey, in any case, the poems of Homer and also the other poems. But we know that the two main poems of the ancient Greeks, of the literature of the ancient Greeks, were the Iliad and Odyssey. We understand that in this sense, according to this type of literature, the idea of religion, it was in relation and had a specific type of impact in the politics. But on the other hand, in the idea of ancient Greeks, in particular with the birth of philosophy, arrived to be considered another type of topic, another type of element, that it was the philosophical element in relation with eternity, on the one hand, against only the immortal thing, and on the other hand, against the idea of a potential idea of destiny between gods, in relation with the idea of one god had a specific type of idea of good, the other god had a specific type of idea of good, etc. In the idea of in the philosophical ideas, for example, in the ideas of Plato, but this type of ideas, Dawson explained, arrived also to be considered from the first type of philosophers as Thales, for example, according to the tradition, as the first philosopher. It was the idea that there is an eternal thing, that it is in eternal, and it was eternal, and it is outside the time, but it creates also the time. On the other hand, we understand this type of description if we consider the demiurge of Plato. In this sense, the demiurge of Plato, it is the cause of a morality, an objective morality, and Plato, with this demiurge, criticized the structure, the system of Homer, where there wasn't a specific type of objective morality, but on the other hand, Plato derived also a specific type of an eternity that the gods of Olympus didn't have. This is really important because if we have to compare historically the civilizations before Greeks, we have to consider that, for example, the ancient pharaoh of Egypt, it was considered a sort of god. It was the incarnation of a god. At the same time, in the Mesopotamian societies, we know the connection between religion and politics, therefore the polytheism, that it was in relation with the ideas of politics, gods that decides in relation with politics, and also these, according to Dawson, in the idea of Mycenaeans. But from the 6th century BC, there was a particular type of philosophy point of view that developed a specific type of opposition to the literature, to the main literature. In fact, the men of the street, for example, in the ancient Greek society, probably consider really much important the idea of destiny in relation with, in this sense, the idea of good and bad in relation with his idea of God. In particular, into what city state he was born. He was born. In this sense, we know that the ancient Greek politics, it was in relation with the city states. Therefore, according to a man of a woman of the ancient Greek society, we know that if this man or woman was born in a city state, in relation with that city state where she or he was born, in this sense, we can understand or developed his specific type of God that his city state consider main important, a lot of most important, because in this sense, each city state were in relation and was in connection with a specific type of God much more than the others. For example, Athens, it was much more in relation with Athena. There is also the myth between Poseidon and Athena to the dominion, to the kingdom of Athens, and in the end succeeded Athena against Poseidon. For example, Sparta, it was the god of the war. Therefore, each city-state consider the same pantheon, the same gods, but and goddesses, in relation, for example, with the idea of literature, Homerical literature, but at the same time, there is a specific type of most important god or goddesses that defend the city-state and support the city-state, with gods that are into the nature, inside the nature, but at the same time are only mortal. It is interesting that if we consider, according to Dawson, this type of structure, we know that in any case, there is a specific type of opposition between secularization in this sense. Politics became to deliver a specific type independence. In fact, the politics, it was in relation with its type of rule, in particular from the classical idea of a city-state, from, for example, the 5th century BC and the 4th century BC. But at the same time, there was also the idea of philosophy that derived a specific type of eternal idea in relation with politics to criticize the politics. Therefore, it seems that in the ancient Greek society, differently by the situations that were before the ancient Greek city-state, on the one hand, there was the idea that politics tried to think a specific type of independence of itself. But at the same time, there was a specific type of idea, of philosophical idea as objective morality, as objective rule, to understand, on the one hand, the rational theology in relation with things that happen, to understand what is true and what is false in relation with logic ideas. But on the other hand, in relation with the idea of objective morality, to understand what is good and what is bad as ethics. This is really important because Homer, in this sense, didn't answer in this type of to this type of issue. Homer, in this sense, explained that there wasn't an objective morality. Each god has its morality, and there wasn't a specific type of logic ideas that we can create because, according to Homer, gods are inside nature, and nature, we cannot understand nature because nature is in relation with destiny, but destiny in relation with chaos, but all its own in relation with immortal things, not in eternal idea. Therefore, there is a connection with maths, with logic things, and therefore, if it is, there is no possible to understand totally the nature. On the other hand, the idea of the philosophical ideas explain that, yeah, we cannot understand totally the nature, but there are some objective rules that can help us to understand that in any case there is a common sense of nature that, according to Homer, instead didn't exist. It exists only the rule of destiny in relation with the idea of the end of the destiny and the end of this specific type of destiny. But there isn't a specific type of organic, objective situation where people can understand normally and ethically and linearly what happened. In fact, it is not a case that Plato, on the one hand, tried to think about an objective morality to explain that death is a part of life, and life has specific type of rules where we have to understand that if we do good, we will have a good death. If we do bad, we will have a bad death. And this is a rule for all, not for one or two people, for all. And this is the same rule for an aristocrat and for a normal man. But at the same time, there is also the idea that there are some rules that didn't depend from each god, but are eternal and are the same generally outside the gods. Therefore, there is main god that maintain this balance. And this is the Demiurge. This is the tradition, then, according to Dawson, that arrived to rethink this type of God in a Christian point of view, in particular after the end of the Western Roman Empire in 5th century AD. Bye.